The money match for me really is Goldberg and Gunther. It's not happening at WrestleMania. It's got to happen at the Royal Rumble. For us to get that at the Rumble, we're going to need a new world champion. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Ramblin' Bout Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, Nick Pearl, and I've been sitting here for the last half hour debating on what I wanted to talk about today. But then it finally just hit me, so I hit the record button. We're going to talk about Gunther and what his plans going into WrestleMania are going to be looking like. What is his roadmap? How does he get there? Who does he face? Will he still be the World Heavyweight Champion? We're going to cover all that right here, right now. How many days until April 19th?
Is 163 days until then.
So looking at the calendar and asking Siri, there are currently 163 days until the show of shows, WrestleMania 41, which I will be attending. You have two very strong world champions right now in WWE, in Cody Rhodes as the WWE champion and Gunther as the world's heavyweight champion. Will Gunther still be holding the belt going into WrestleMania? We know Cody Rhodes is most likely going to be involved with Roman Reigns and The Rock and maybe Kevin Owens, however that storyline ends up going. But Gunther's a wild card. There's so much intrigue around his reign. He was booked to perfection up until Crown Jewel, where Cody Rhodes pinned him. I think that was a huge mistake. I didn't really cover Crown Jewel on the podcast, but Gunther should not have been losing to Cody. I get that the story of the match was Gunther said he's going to choke Cody out. He was going to make him pass out to a chokehold. What ended up happening? The whole match, Gunther went for that, and Cody just managed to use Gunther's momentum against him and roll him up. It does protect Gunther, but now Cody is added to that very short list of people that have actually beaten Gunther clean. There's Dragunov, there's Sami Zayn, there's Braun Breaker, and now there's Cody Rhodes. So it's very, very tough. It's tough to book when you put people in that situation. I'm sure Gunther's going to be fine. He's looking up and up now. It was a Saudi show. It is what it is. But you can't help but just get a little worried, because the last time you had a bad booking decision on a Saudi show, you had The Fiend losing to Goldberg. And now who's looming in Gunther's future? The one and only Goldberg. When is this matchup happening? I had thought, you know what? If Gunther's going to lose to Cody, let's have Goldberg just come out, interfere in the matchup at Crown Jewel, costing Gunther the match. I think that would have been the best way to book it. We have not seen or heard from Goldberg since Bad Blood. And the segment that they had, I did not care about another Goldberg match. I did not. It was furthest thing from my mind. But once he jumped that barricade and they had that little brawl and they're just insulting each other, I'm all in. I don't want this to be for the World Championship, though, so that's the dilemma. The last time Goldberg went for a world title, he lost to Drew McIntyre. It's supposed to be a passing of the torch moment. I don't think that it was, because do people even remember that match happened? Happened during COVID, I think, either Elimination Chamber or the Royal Rumble. I feel like it was the Rumble. So since Goldberg has not been on TV, how do we get this storyline cooking again? They were heated up so well in that one segment that I want to see it happen. Now it's like it's been dropped. Looking in the near future, Gunther has Damian Priest lined up for a rematch from their SummerSlam encounter, where Gunther took the belt off of Priest. I'm very excited for this, first of all. I mean, Damian Priest, he's just on a whole nother level, and I've said it before. His reign as world champion, people just didn't, it was overlooked for the longest time. When he finally dropped that belt, I feel like his reign had just started going when he had that match against Drew and he got his leg caught. I automatically turned. I said, ooh, you know what? I'm into this. A face Damian Priest could be huge. He drops the belt to Gunther. His stock is still going up and up. I want him to get out of this Judgment Day shenanigans. He needs to be done. And from the looks of it on Monday Night Raw, we're finally starting to get past this. He has a new intro to his theme song. Comes out, looks like a revamped presentation. Could Damian Priest defeat Gunther for the World Championship at the next pay-per-view? Survivor Series? It's possible. If Goldberg were to come back and interfere in that match, I'm all ears. Because the World Heavyweight Championship scene at that point, going into the Royal Rumble and beyond, becomes the most unpredictable title scene in all of wrestling. More than any company. When Priest was the champion originally, we knew the end game was going to be Gunther. But if Priest were to get that belt back, then what? The money match for me really is Goldberg and Gunther. I want to see it. It's not happening at WrestleMania. It's got to happen at the Royal Rumble. For us to get that at the Rumble, we're going to need a new world champion. I'm changing my thoughts on the fly here because this is not at all what I had planned. I had for WrestleMania John Cena going up against Gunther for the World Championship. But Gunther might drop the belt first. Maybe Cena wins the Rumble and he gets a world title shot. Maybe you end up having Cena versus Priest and you save Cena versus Gunther. Maybe Gunther and Cena is the retirement match. Cena doesn't have to beat Gunther. Gunther's been beaten too much this year for me. Too much for my liking. Going with what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling right now. Survivor Series happens. Damian Priest going for the world title against Gunther. He gets his belt back because Goldberg interferes. Your world title scene can then involve Dominic Mysterio for a pay-per-view. And then we move on from Judgment Day, where Royal Rumble, you have Gunther versus Goldberg, where Goldberg would put Gunther over and walk off into the sunset. Goldberg does not need a victory. Gunther looks fantastic going to the Royal Rumble, where John Cena wins. Cena will win his third Royal Rumble matchup. Going to WrestleMania, where Cena versus Damian Priest. Cena beats Priest for the title. Priest starts off his World Championship run in the main event at WrestleMania 40, and he loses the belt 1 year later. John Cena is your World Heavyweight Champion. Gunther is looming. You could then have Gunther win Money in the Bank. Loom over John Cena while he's putting all this other talent over. Out of nowhere, boom, there's Gunther. Gunther versus Cena. Do it as Cena's last match. He either wins the match and retires, leaves the belt in the middle of the ring, walks off, or he puts Gunther over. Gunther reclaims the World Heavyweight Championship. You can't have two insanely dominant world champions at the same time. Cody Rhodes, he's not dropping the belt for a very, very long time. I'd be surprised if he dropped it at WrestleMania 41. Honest. You gotta have some change in the main event scene, especially with Raw going to Netflix. There's gotta be some type of spark. And this is how you do it. New world champion. Damian Priest, the guy that people are really starting to get behind. John Cena is also going to be on the Netflix premiere of Raw. All these stories are going to start coming. Goldberg, Gunther, big money match. Cena going for the world title. Another big time storyline. All going to WrestleMania, where the next year's worth of plans will be starting to come to fruition. It's like when you got John Cena versus The Rock announced a year in advance. You'll get Cena versus Gunther 6 months in advance. I could also be 100% off the mark here. Gunther could beat Damian Priest. Gunther could defend the championship against Goldberg. Cena could still win the Rumble. Gunther beats Cena at WrestleMania. That could happen. Or, what we really don't want, is Goldberg could actually beat Gunther. Goldberg could hold the belt. You get John Cena versus Goldberg at WrestleMania. Or I was just looking at this. This is something very interesting to me. On the Gigantic Pop podcast with former WWE star Matt Morgan. He used to be on another podcast that I listen to all the time. Never really had a big run in wrestling. TNA was probably the best chance he had at that. But great to listen to as a podcaster. He's very entertaining. He's making the case here that Goldberg should have his retirement match against Dominic Mysterio. Would you be opposed to it? With Dom overselling every little thing? Goldberg and Ray were both WCW. Why not Dominic Mysterio go after Goldberg? He wouldn't win. But Goldberg would have to, it would probably be one of the best Goldberg matches you could get. It's either going to be a hard-hitting match that lasts a couple of seconds, or you're going to have a lot of shenanigans going on. It's just going to be entertaining. Something is going to give, especially with this Netflix deal. Things are going to change. We're going to get some new champions. You're going to have Jey Uso's probably going to win a belt too. Braun Breaker, he may not be the Intercontinental Champion anymore. Maybe we'll get a new Women's World Champion. Liv Morgan may drop that belt, even though there's reports saying that she's also going to have a long run. WWE World Champions do not need to be champions for a long period of time. Look at how AEW does it. They have a bunch of people that could be champion all at the same time. You give a couple of them maybe 1 month, 2 month, 3 month reigns, quality opponents, and all their reigns are remembered as all-time greats. Look at Samoa Joe, for example. He only held the belt a couple of months. Then you go to Swerve, held it for longer than Joe. Then you got Bryan Danielson, who held it probably the shortest amount of time than all of them. All had meaningful runs. WWE does not need to have long runs. As long as they're meaningful and something big happens that I can think and pinpoint exactly the day, the time, the show of when it happened, that's how you want to book it. I would just selfishly love to see Gunther versus Cena at Mania, and I would have Cena beat Gunther. Another thing that popped into my head just now before we close out. What if Dragunov were to pull a John Cena, come back from injury and win the Royal Rumble, and then you get Gunther versus Dragunov at WrestleMania? That's all I gotta say about that. Moving forward on the podcast, Season 3 will be coming to an end very, very soon. Come Survivor Series, Season 4 will be dropping shortly after. We will have a brand new cover. I don't know if it's going to be a star or if we're going to Royal Rumble theme it. I think we may go the Rumble theme. But coming up very soon, I'm going to announce it right here, and I hope it doesn't bite me in the butt. It's looking like we're going to be getting our first ever wrestler on the podcast for an interview. It's not going to be your typical interview that you see, and I'm not going to give all the details now. Keep your eyes open for it, because I am very excited. I've been getting texts about this today. I actually just texted back someone getting ready to plan this. So hopefully we'll get that cooking. That'll either be the season finale of the podcast, or it'll be the season premiere. So with all that being said, I've been your host, Nick Pearl. I'll catch you all on the next one. Let's keep rambling, everybody.